The briefing will come to order. Good afternoon. After my opening remarks and those of my good friend Mr. Berman, the ranking member of the committee, I will recognize the chairman-designate and the ranking member-designate of the Africa Global Health and Human Rights Subcommittee, Mr. Smith on our side, Mr. Payne, for 3 minutes each. We will then move to our panelist presentation, followed by questioning by the members designate of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, and I use that phrase because we're not formally organized yet, for 5 minutes each, followed by 5 minutes each for any other member who would like to ask questions of our panelists. And I appreciate the understanding and cooperation of our colleagues and look forward to today's discussion. And before we begin, I'd like to express what an honor it is to assume the responsibilities of Chairman of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. For the members who will be joining the committee upon organization, please know that I do not take those responsibilities lightly. During the 112th Congress, this committee will be confronted with some of the most pressing national security and foreign policy challenges of our time, from ensuring rigorous enforcement of sanctions against Iran to providing effective stewardship of American taxpayer dollars in foreign aid and State Department programs, to instituting systems for accountability at the United Nations. I fully intend to work with all members of the committee and the American people to confront these challenges directly, responsibly, and effectively. It is therefore fitting that the first members' briefing hosted by this committee would be focused on Sudan. Today, Sudan is truly at the crossroads. Beginning on January 9th, millions of South Sudanese participated in a historic referendum to determine whether Africa's largest country would remain united or split in two, given the countless delays, manipulations, and violent eruptions that have imperiled implementation of the comprehensive peace agreement for Sudan over these past 6 years. Many doubted that this day would come. Yet the vote proceeded peacefully and credibly. After decades of repression by a genocidal regime in Khartoum and a war that left over 2 million people dead and 4 million people displaced, the people of South Sudan may at last have realized their right to self-determination. Unfortunately, the hardest work is yet to come. First, the results must be certified and accepted. Though Khartoum has pledged to accept the outcome, it has a long history of reneging on its commitment. The stakes are high, and both sides have spent the past 6 years preparing for war. Second, outstanding issues relating to the implementation of the CPA must be resolved prior to conclusion of the transition period in July 2011, including the demarcation of the border, citizenship and nationality, wealth sharing and resource management, including for oil and water, division of assets and debt, currency, and security arrangements. Third, the future status of the oil-rich Abyei region must be resolved fairly and in a transparent manner. Abyei is the lit match in a pool of gasoline, and continued failure to resolve its status all but guarantees war. Likewise, the popular consultations in southern Kordofan and Blue Nile must proceed in a manner that legitimately addresses long-standing grievances. These areas are awash with weapons and tensions are high. A single security incident could set the entire region ablaze. Finally, we must not trade peace in Darfur for independence in the South. Regrettably, it appears the administration may have forgotten key lessons from the past. Prior U.S. efforts to reward the Sudanese regime for signing peace agreements and acceding to the deployment of peacekeepers, while the regime simultaneously supported genocide in Darfur, blocked humanitarian access, and stalled implementation of the CPA, were broadly condemned. In the words of then-Senator Barack Obama in April of 2008, and I quote, "I am deeply concerned by reports that the Bush administration is negotiating a normalization of relations with the government of Sudan. This reckless and cynical initiative would reward a regime in Khartoum that has a record of failing to live up to its commitments, end quote. Yet the Obama administration is following the same misguided concessions-driven path. I do not intend to minimize what has been accomplished inside Sudan. Delivering a timely, credible referendum was an incredibly hard task. But again, the referendum is just the start. The true test of the regime's commitment will extend far beyond the July 2011 date and far beyond South Sudan. Thus, I am deeply troubled by the premature efforts to advance normalization, sanctions, relief, and debt relief. The bulk of sanctions mandated by Congress are linked to peace in South Sudan and in Darfur. Given recent developments in Darfur, the certification requirements for easing of sanctions cannot be met. I am particularly concerned by suggestions that the administration may remove Sudan from the state sponsors of terrorism list by July 2011. Removal from this list is not a gold star that can be afforded to advance an unrelated political objective. This is a serious matter with repercussions that directly impact our most vital national security interests. Recall that the previous administration delisted North Korea in exchange for nominal concessions relating to one nuclear facility. Almost immediately upon winning this prize, North Korea reneged on its promise to implement a transparent verification regime, withdrew from the six-party talks, and brazenly resumed its proliferation activities. Today, North Korea reportedly possesses one or more highly sophisticated uranium enrichment facilities and, according to the United Nations, is supplying Iran, Syria, and Burma with nuclear and ballistic missile-related equipment. The U.S. must proceed with extreme caution in our dealings with the Sudanese regime. The potential birth of a new nation in South Sudan is truly momentous and will have significant ramifications beyond the region. The United States has played a major role in bringing the parties to this point, and it is in our national interest to see that the process advances peacefully. The risks are high, the challenges are daunting, but the achievement of peace in a region ravaged by war is an honorable endeavor. I welcome the opportunity to work with the administration and responsible partners for peace in Sudan toward this end. I now turn to our ranking member, Mr. Berman, for his opening remarks.